Use the Calculate Columns action to calculate new columns in the data set. When you open up the Calculate Columns action, you're presented with a blank widget with an Add New Column button. Click on this Add New Column button and name the column that you want to create, or at least the first column that you want to create, as you can create multiple columns. You're presented with an interface that gives you a number of different options for calculating columns. The first option is a simple arithmetic calculation. So here you take numeric or date time fields and you perform multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, percentage, and order of operation. So for example, I can take a numeric column like age. I can change this to something else and I can add this, for example, to another column and get a result. I can also, as I mentioned, use date time functions. And these date time functions will be available in this dropdown as well. You can delete items from this list by clicking on the little red circle to clear this from the screen. Next, I can do functions based on a function drop-down list. There are string functions, numeric functions, date time functions, and geographic functions. So for example, I can click on the string functions and choose a string calculation. For example, if I choose concatenation, I can concatenate two columns that are considered appropriate for this type of calculation. I want to concatenate the region and the smokers in each region. I can do that. I could also do this with numeric calculations. So there's a number of different calculations to choose from. Date time calculations, where I extract date parts and do other date comparisons. And then finally geographic, where I find and generate coordinates, latitude, longitude, country, city, postal code, and straight distance from geographic fields. And if I wanted to save this, I would hit the save button and be able to move on with that. I can also do RFM, or recency frequency monetary, are typical column calculations that are done when you're trying to understand transactions and to summarize them by customer, for example. So, for example, if I wanted to understand what was the most recent transaction by customer, the frequency of transactions, and the amount or dollar value, currency value of a transaction for a particular time period, I can choose to use this RFM section to calculate our recency, frequency, and monetary. And this is a way to be able to do this across many different transactions that all share the same ID field for the customer. So for example, if I had an ID field, I could select the ID field here, and I would choose which ID that I wanted to use. I then would choose a timestamp. If there was a timestamp column, it would be available here. And if I wanted to choose a start and end date for the period to evaluate, for the frequency and the monetary value, I would do that. If I wanted to count by hours, weeks, days, months, quarters, and year, it would do that. And then finally, the monetary field would be a selection of a currency value, dollar value, for example, that can be used to calculate the RFM scores. And if I wanted to save this, I would select that. For this example, I'm going to do the fourth option, which is a conditional calculation. In this case, I want to convert the region to a region name to make it better for presenting results. So I happen to know that in this data set there are 4 different regions, and I'm going to name the regions according to their values. Now, the region is considered, even though it's a number value, it's considered a string for the purposes of this data set. And I can string together these examples in this way, or these conditions in this way. So if region equals 0, then I want to give this name Southeast Elsif. So for all others equals any of these other values, then I want it to assume or be assigned different value names. So Southeast, region 1 could be Midwest, region 2 is Northeast, and region 3 is West. I then save this information. I click Save Changes. Incidentally, I could specify the type of data that I am creating for the assigned variable, which could be very helpful. In this case, it's pretty obvious that it's a string. I also could add new columns. So if I wanted to do more than one, I could add a new column, name the column, and perform my function. In this case, I'm going to take the charges and I'm going to divide those by some other numeric column, save changes, and now I've got the two different columns that I'm creating. So I can create many columns in the same action. In fact, I can even reference the first column that will be creating this action as a calculation in the second, and so on and so forth. So now that I'm done saving here, I'm going to click execute and get my results. When the execution has completed, I can accept the execution, and I have a new data set. I should have two new columns. One is region name, that is derived from the region number, so I'll label. And the other is charges edited. That is a function of the charges and another numeric column, and that is our calculate columns action. Thank you for your time.